Boer prophet Siener van Rensburg, Visions as recorded by Anna Badenhorst, Part 2, 8 January 1917 till 25 March 1917. These are the visions Siener van Rensburg had and were written down by his daughter, Anna Badenhorst. The visions were interpreted by several persons, and these are mentioned with every vision. I do not do any interpretations myself. Let us begin with 8 January 1917. Vision number 260. Siener sees wagons with white canvas coverings, but without any oxen, flee out of Europe. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. It relates to the First World War and Dunkirk. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. Motor vehicles with no military intention flee from Europe. A nuclear disaster. Chernobyl. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman includes several references to a number of other visions which Adriaan Snyman grouped together as all being related to one another and this first vision. This vision and its associated visions are referred to again in further or future interpretations of other visions or the associated visions mentioned. So it is well worth taking note of this vision and those associated with it by Adriaan Snyman. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. The following 5 visions all relate to the Second World War. 8 January 1917 says, wagons with white canvas coverings but without oxen flee out of Europe. Then we have 12 January 1917. In the Union are wagons that come to us. In Europe, a yellow stone rolls to the south. Behind it are wagons with blue mules. 19 January 1917, in the northwest is a bucket of blood that falls over. 21 January 1917, an old woman scoops maize from a large dish. A season. A man stands in the south with a rifle at his head. 24 January 1917, there is a round hole and blood runs into it until it is almost full. A lot of blood would flow, and history later proved that Siener was correct. It was a bloody war in which millions of people died. South Africa, the Union, would also join the war. The blue mules refer to Germany. The yellow stone is Japan and their attack on America. The old woman scooping maize indicates that the war would last many years. The bucket of blood, and especially in the last vision where blood runs into a hole, refers to the senseless bloodshed. 8 January 1917, wagons with white canvas coverings but without oxen flee out of Europe. This indicates the confusion and fear in Europe that followed Hitler's Blitzkrieg. The vision 12 January 1917, in the Union are wagons that come to us, is interpreted as South Africa entering the war. In Europe, a yellow stone rolls towards the south. Behind it are wagons with blue mules, interpreted as Japan entering the war as an ally of Germany. 19 January 1917, in the northwest is a bucket full of blood that falls over. It's interpreted as the immense bloodshed that will follow. 21 January 1917, an old woman scoops maize from a large dish. A season. A man stands in the south with a rifle at his head. Interpreted as it indicates a scarcity of food. 24 January 1917, in the west of Europe there is a large furnace and a large fire burns in the furnace, and flames billow from the mouth of the furnace, interpreted as the aerial bombardments throughout Europe. 27 January 1918, myself and another person are in the east. There are steps going down in front of us. The person with me walks down the steps a short distance. The Germans come round a large town from the east. The women and children flee out of the town. It refers to Hitler's invasion of Russia. We now continue with the visions. 12 January 1917, vision number 261, Siener sees. In the Union, there are wagons that come to us. In Europe, a yellow stone rolls to the south. Behind it are wagons with blue mules. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. It indicates English, yellow, offensive with English in the front and Germans in pursuit. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. In South Africa are weapons of war, which are meant for us. In Europe, an English offensive moves south. The warship is followed by degenerate Germans. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. See the interpretation of 8 January 1917 of Vision 260 previously. 19 January 1917, Vision number 262, Siener sees. In the northwest is a bucket full of blood that falls over. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann signifies great bloodshed in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, possibly Gibraltar. The English from the east flee there. See vision of 1 October 1917 later. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. In Angola, fighting becomes so fierce that figuratively a bucket of blood falls over. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. It refers to the riots in the Congo in the 1960s. Whites fled to North Rhodesia, now Zambia, and it is there that Siener saw the bucket full of blood fall over. Also, see the interpretation of 8 January 1917 of Vision 260. 21 January 1917, Vision number 263. Siener sees, and old woman scoops maize from a large dish. A season. A man stands in the south with a rifle at his head. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. A good harvest in 1914 and 1915. Riots in the Cape. They warn Afrikaners of German East Africa, now Tanzania. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. A bountiful harvest for the use of the people. The harvest of the 1917s. A threat of war comes from the south, Cape. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. See the interpretation of 8 January 1917 of Vision 260. 24 January 1917, Vision number 264. Siener sees. There is a round hole and blood runs into it until it is almost full. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Germans from German West bomb Cape Town. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. There is a bad situation and great violence with a lot of bloodshed that will almost fill the hole that will take place. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. The bucket of blood, as well as the hole filling with blood, indicates the senseless bloodshed of the Second World War. Also see the interpretation of 8 January 1917 of Vision 260. 25 January 1917, Vision number 265, Siener sees. I go to the west, and when I stop, wagons with green wheels go to the south before me. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. It's Italians. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. The Afrikaner people find a connection with the West. But when we understand the situation, they turn against us with an uncertain policy aimed at us. 4 February 1917, vision number 266, Siener sees. I travel down a road to the west. The road is getting deeper, and eventually I reach the sea. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. It's trouble. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. The Afrikaner people agree with the Western school of thought. The way of thinking becomes increasingly difficult to go along with, and the Afrikaner people reach a point where they cannot agree with it any longer. The Afrikaner and the United Nations. 6 February 1917, vision number 267, Siener sees. In the west, the earth becomes dark. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Trouble. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. Major problems threaten the West, Southwest Africa, now Namibia. 6 February 1917, vision number 268, Siener sees. I see white horses in the east crossing a road with their heads towards the south. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. There's no danger. White. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. I see peace movements in the east, Russia, aimed at the south, us. Come with a purpose. 11 March 1917, vision number 269, Siener sees. The merino sheep move from the west to the south. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Good Afrikaners from German West, Namibia, move to Cape Town. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. True Afrikaners flee Southwest Africa, Namibia, to South Africa. At a bridge at the Great River, presumably the Orange River, the refugees will trample each other to death. 12 March 1917, vision number 270, Siener sees. In Europe, there is a large kraal, an enclosure full of fat cattle. There are 3 types, grey, black, and red. They emerge from the enclosure and wagons flee west. The world turns dark. In the east, a long iron wagon is under a rock, and it wiggles the rock upwards. I'm in Wolmeranstad, and I put on new black shoes. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Red is British. Black is black people. Grey are people friendly to Germany. Big trouble, a difficult period. A merger of sorts, the black shoes. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. An alliance, and they are prosperous, fat. The alliance begins to operate, then people flee to the west. A major threat follows. In the east are weapons of war, and the long wagon below is of iron, Russian origin. It is under a large bomb, and it is stirring the bomb. Black shoes refer to a black government. Interpretation by Adriaan Snyman. This vision indicates rule by a black government. At first, everything goes well with Europe and with us, but the peace and cooperation would not last long. The Afrikaner people wake up too late, and an exodus to the west begins. Dark days dawn for us. Insecurity, violence, confusion, and ignorance become part of our daily existence. The world turns dark. The national leaders will be manipulated and controlled mainly by the iron fist of the treacherous communists. There is underhanded manipulation, and when Siener puts on new black shoes at Wolmaranstad, it means that a new government will come into power. For the Union, Republic of South Africa, it means a black government. 25 March 1917, vision number 271, Siener sees. There is a big river, and there are cattle in the water that are about to drown. Just the horns and heads are above water. Interpretation by Boy Mussmann. Support loans. Interpretation by Nelly van Zyl. There is a mass of news and propaganda, and there are people who are overwhelmed by the news and propaganda. Only their horns are above the water, about the overwhelming onslaught of propaganda and news. This concludes this session of Visions. If you have questions or comments, then please leave them in the comment section, and I will attempt to answer where it is possible to answer. Please do subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be informed when the next video is uploaded. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.